This is Scav. Welcome to the Extra Office. Today we've got a really fun stream for you. We are live, and we are going to play some Animal Crossing with special guest Galo Canizares of Office Ka. We have a student, Sam Gifford, who's playing on her Switch at her apartment or her house in and around Kent, Ohio, and Galo is checking in from... Where exactly are you?
Lubbock, Texas.
Lubbock, Texas?
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I'm in Columbus, Ohio. So we're going to, there's already a kind of interesting conversation here that you can come visit this island. Is that right? So that's
me.
Your avatar on this island with Sam.
Yes. And then all the animals are the little NPC neighbors that live on this island. I think we should start off at the town hall. I'm going to go inside. Basically, the basis of this game is that you move to this deserted island and you build all the infrastructure up from the ground. Tom Nook over here on the left, he is the real estate tycoon. And in all the previous versions of this game, you take out a mortgage and you pretty much owe him money the whole game. And I've learned from a young age about the never-ending debt that you would owe to this raccoon character. But each time you pay off your mortgage, you take out another mortgage, but you get an addition to your house, and usually the roof is changed as well. In the newer Animal Crossing games, Isabelle here on the right is added in. She's kind of like a town planner. She helps you with decorating the island and improving the island ratings and morale. And also in this town hall, in front of their little office space, there's a recycling bin where you can, sometimes there's like trash left in here, but you can find some cool stuff in there. And then an ATM that works to redeem points and all that kind of stuff. I think it's so funny that in all of these machines, they really detail this game like down to like the outlets being placed behind them.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. I see the outlet and plug in for the... Can you unplug it and steal the cash?
No.
But this Tom Nook character is probably the most culturally recognizable piece from the game series, because that's the person I heard the most about. So tell me a little bit more about Tom Nook.
Yes, in previous games, he was located in the town shop, and we'll go there. He has two, I think they're his nephews, brothers, I forget their relationship, but they're two more raccoons. And in that town shop, he would also buy things from you. The way you make money in this game is you sell seashells or cool rocks or fish, all of the things that you find in this little island town community. So we'll head over there. This is a museum. I'll come back here in a second.
Okay. Now, what kind of building is Tom Nook in this game? Like
in this game, he is in the town hall. In previous games, he'd be in the shop. The shop is named Nook's Cranny after him. And there's two more raccoon characters that are located in here. One sec. Oh, the other one's hiding over here. Yeah, these are his family members that are in charge of the shop now. This is where you can buy everything, but you can also sell items. So to sell, you just talk to them, and you can sell literally anything from seashells to weeds you find on the ground. I don't have much to sell right now because a lot of these items, the wood I've chopped down, the clay I've found, you can use to craft new items and furniture to decorate your island and your house. You can also buy things from the shop. And there's always all kinds of stuff in here. This is a wasp head.
Okay.
It's a lot of random stuff in the shop.
Yeah.
Does that help you in ways?
Like this one's a light switch. It's all to decorate your island. And I guess there's no like winning and losing in this game. It's really just you're kind of playing like this is your life and decorating the island. You can talk to Isabelle in that town hall. I'll run back there. And she will give you a town rating. I believe my island's only 4 stars right now, but some of the 5-star ones are really crazy. And at 3 stars on Saturday nights, a concert will be held here in this plaza by KK Slider. And he'll sing all his songs in the little Animal Crossing language. And a lot of them are really catchy. And you can find like covers on YouTube of like pop songs KK has covered. It's very cute. There's also a little bulletin board by this town hall that if people visit your island, they can leave notes. There's also different announcements like bug offs, frog time that someone visited wrote.
So Galo, could you leave a bulletin?
I think I can. I think I could say hi or something.
Yeah.
And you can visit someone's island when they're not playing the game. Is that right?
No.
They have to be.
You have to be invited. You have to open up your island in order to be able to get visitors.
Okay, so people can only visit your island when you're there and you open it.
Yeah, I can show you. You would open up your island a little bit further down. This is the airport. So this is the main access. You can't reach over there, but there's a little dock and a plane. And it's Dodo Airlines, so it's kind of ironic. Dodos can't fly, and they often make the NPCs here. They make a lot of jokes about how they can't fly. It's a really cute airline, and then you open up these gates.
That's to let people in.
Yes, so you have to talk to this guy to let people in.
Okay, but let's see, it's 9 in the morning, and it was funny because we were just about to get this show started, and we had to pass time in game so that the shops would be open so that we could stream and take this tours. That's right?
Yeah, so it operates in real time. So the main store and the clothing store close after 8 or 9 o'clock at night. After 8 o'clock at night, you can't go inside of them, but Nook's Cranny has a drop-off box. So if you want to sell stuff after hours, you can just drop your stuff off. Also, this bulletin board here, it'll tell you the item of the day. So if you want to make more money, you sell those items to them and it'll be worth a little bit more.
Okay. Now the chat says that there's a lot of disconnect with the items. Like, for example, the light switch can be placed on your wall and flicked up and down, but it doesn't control the lights in the room. Is that true?
Yeah, you control the lights in your room on your controller. So you don't even need a light switch to control the lights in your room. I can.
Yeah, I think the items become just kind of like fidgety, right? It's they're just kind of gimmicky, right? So if something has a button, then it can sort of be turned on, but that's all it does, right?
Yeah.
I have a sink in the middle of my house, and as I installed that, like you can turn on the sink and you can see the running water.
Excellent.
But that's all it does.
Very very Corbusian of you. Very modern of you.
Yeah, it was a direct homage. But it's also really interesting because I kind of made a bathroom too. And you get like a toilet and you get a shower. You can buy a shower and and you can like sit on a toilet. And then like when you get off the toilet, like the character sort of immediately kind of flushes.
Yeah, I have all the toilet stuff in here.
Okay, so this is your house, Sam.
Yes, this is my house. The houses are just kind of square rooms. You can decorate however you please. So this is the Zen Room in my house. It's also the bathroom. And I have all the toilet pieces that the game has and some bamboo furniture.
Very nice. That looks relaxing. But what's, something that we can point out that's interesting that I think has a crossover with a lot of games is like that room is this layout, this floor plan, right, is not the visible layout of the exterior.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different. There is, when you, the different wallpapers some of them have windows that you can see outside. This one doesn't because it's an animated wallpaper.
The wallpapers come with windows?
Some of them do. I know this one does. Yes, this one has a couple windows. And when you upgrade your house, you get more rooms. Right now, I just have 2 rooms. But then the windows move. So here, the window moves over to accommodate that extra room where this wall that has no doorway here has the window in the center of the room.
See.
Yeah, the rooms in Animal Crossing are, they're bigger on the inside than they are on the outside, right? On the outside, all you see is this little shack. And then when you go inside, it's I have what I think I've got 3 rooms and then a second floor, but you can't see that from the outside. It's kind of like Zelda, sort of.
Yeah, and but you can expand. Like, did you have to expand your interior?
Yeah, you have to pay money. You take out a loan, and every room that you add is more and more expensive than the last one.
Mm.
You can see there's like kind of an attempt to put a window on the side of this thing. And that's kind of the extra room. It juts off. And then if I got the extension for the next room, it would do the same on the other side.
Oh, it would. So it does give a little bit of a hint in that way. Like it changes, but it's still a folly or like a cartoon. If you get a second floor, does it put like a little window?
I don't think so. I think it's always a skeuomorph, right? It's basically like an icon, like you would have in your desktop or your app, or your phone, right? So, but it's also like really, really detailed, and all the houses are also different. So all of your residents have different houses. I think you were probably like the individual player has the biggest house.
Really?
All the other players technically, I think, only have like 1 room. Like all the other
You can run into
NPCs.
one of these houses.
So what struck me, like, so this place was, so it was a remote island when you arrived, or an abandoned island?
Yeah, so in New Horizons, this island starts off as an abandoned island, and you and Tom Nook are the very first residents on this island, and then you start to build up the island from scratch. Where in previous games, it was a town that was already kind of built, and it was more about living life on that island, in that town, than building it up. I think that's why I like New Horizons the most out of any of the Animal Crossing games, is because you really get to build up the island. You get to make all the roads, the fences, the furniture. You can craft items. And a lot of people curate really specific aesthetics. And I really love seeing those aesthetics. And this is the other main shop on the island. The main buildings that the game it comes with, the first one you get is the town hall. And that one does evolve as you progress through the game in the architecture of it. And then the Nook shop is the second building you acquire. And then the Able Sisters, the tailor's shop, is the next one. And there's also a campsite, which is pretty small, but you can have amiibo campers come out and visit your island. Or if you're looking for a new resident, they'll come visit that campsite as well. I don't think I have anyone on my campsite right now, though, so it's empty. This is that shop again. Did I go in here? Yes, I did. But I think the little platform outside is real cute because it accommodates for those, the drop-off box and that sign there. On this one, there is kind of like a suggestion that there is a second floor to it. So you can kind of see that window up there. And then on the inside are stairs for it.
Oh, interesting. Galo, is your character in a mask?
Yeah, I got a doctor's mask. And I've just been wearing it all year, you know.
This event is safe. That's amazing. Can you go? You can't go inside though when she goes into a shop.
I can go inside.
Oh, you could.
Yeah.
Let's see
You
it.
can't go behind the register, but there is an indication that there are stairs and a second level to this shop. I think in a previous version of the game, you could evolve to another. You could evolve your shop to having a second floor. Yeah, because I remember my friend got that far, and I could never get that far in the game as her.
So those are the stairs all the way on the right. It looks almost like an old bell tower for a church or something.
Yeah, so I bet that second floor is probably real small, probably for storage for all this stuff they have to keep.
Yeah, if you want to get kind of critical about it, Animal Crossing has this like really weird balance between, let's say, settler colonialism and neoliberal pioneer
Or like neoliberal
impulses,
debt capitalism. Oh, impulse buys.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's this like fantastic essay by Ian Bogost for The Atlantic where he writes about what Animal Crossing actually means or might mean, and there's there's a lot of components to it, right? It's like fundamentally a kind of really traditional Japanese game, right? So Tom Nook is actually a tanuki, not necessarily a raccoon. It's sort of like in the same family, but a more traditional Japanese animal, right? And so there's a lot of like elements of Japanese culture in the game, like the kind of furniture that you can get, the kind of electronics as well. Let's say the aesthetics as well, like the way that you can like decorate your room and stuff. So there's a kind of traditional quality to the game that's pretty important, I think, for the developers, because Nintendo is a very kind of traditional Japanese company, right? And then. But there's also this like weird terraforming kind of impulse, right? So you just like you get a tabula rasa condition of an island, and then you are free to start to build as you wish, but then you have to accrue capital, right? So you have to like sell stuff, you have to harvest fruit, and you can sell things in the shop in order to make money. And the goal is really to just accumulate wealth, right? But what's also really interesting is that the stock market and the way that value is kind of formed in this game is a little bit more speculative, and it basically everything rests on like a kind of bartering system, right? So you can trade anything for money. Essentially, you can like sell grass. Everything's worth something, right? And so I don't know. It's not like super exploitative in that sense, but it's still fundamentally built upon like a kind of neoliberal tradition, right? Of just like accumulating wealth, and then there's like loans and construction fees, all of this stuff. Like to build a bridge, you have to like raise money from the community, but nobody in the community actually puts any money in. You have to like front all the cash for a bridge. Like so for example, I don't know if you can actually do it here, but to build a bridge, you have to go into the construction counter and you say, "Hey, I want to build a bridge," and then they say how much the bridge is going to cost. And so then they start like this little construction site where you want the bridge, but the bridge can't be built until they raise enough funds, right? So yeah, I think you're seeing it now. And this little guy is basically saying, some people from the community are pitching in, but they're pitching like like one coin or something like that. And so you have to put in like 98,000 bells in order to actually get this thing built, which is which is kind of interesting. But
we have a lot of bells we need. You don't have to donate that if you don't want.
Oh no, I've been working on this. You also have to do the construction for the inclines. So I'm trying to build an incline to this hill up here. You can get up to them with a ladder tool, but it's kind of annoying to have to pull it out of your pocket every time you want to use it. This is I have a heart-shaped lake over here that I built.
Very nice.
Because you can, one of the features on New Horizons is you can, I don't know if it'll let me do construction with a guest over. Ooh. Oh yeah, I can't use it while visiting the island, but you can use that app on your phone to be able to build cliffs and levels and adjust the landscape of the island, and also adjust the water constructions. You can change how the lakes and the rivers flow. The only thing you cannot change is where the rivers enter the ocean, and you cannot move the town hall.
See, but this kind of building here actually that you're at, this pink one. What is that one?
Yeah, this is one of the residents' house. This is I believe it's a Vladimir. It's a pink bear who has a very unique style. I love him. I don't know where he's at. He's out and about somewhere, so we can't go inside.
Well, what's so interesting about this one, especially relating to what Galo's talking about too, is that like there are technologies. Like anytime when you try to represent this type of game, this type of environment, you always end up with there are technologies that are more advanced and a lot of technologies that are less advanced, and they just seamlessly coexist. and you're kind of suspended in disbelief, like as if they are all together, different aesthetic choices, when in reality they represent like the ability or the technology in this building, for example, would give you the ability to provide everybody a bigger house or a house or a bridge. Like you could build a bridge out of the steel, right? But that those technologies are hidden almost under the capacities that allow you to play the game, right? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like labor. Like you got to work, right? You can like mine rocks for like using a shovel, and you can mine some like raw resources like iron from like a rock, and then you can use that iron to like make stuff like furniture. You can make like an iron bed frame. So there's like work that you can do in this game, which is kind of interesting. Like I built a lot of my own furniture by harvesting wood. I can chop down. Well, you don't actually necessarily have to chop down the tree, but you can get wood from a tree without chopping it down, which is actually kind of a nice process, right? Is the idea that you're not actually tearing down the tree, but you're actually like taking a little bit of the tree. See, there you go.
Oh, I see.
Just get like a little chunk of wood, and then you can use that wood to make like furniture or decorations or whatever you want to do in your little workshop. And so for quarantine, right? This game was amazing, right? Because I got it. My friend gifted it to me when quarantine started, because it was just released almost like exactly a year ago, I think. So it's actually fitting that we're discussing it today. But I didn't know anything about it. I just knew that there was like some hype around it, and then I started playing it, and I was stuck at home. Stephanie was in Taliesin, and so I was just by myself. Yeah, and sometimes I was streaming some like web tutorials, but for the most part I was just playing Animal Crossing, and I was just making stuff in the workshop and picking fruit, and I started to realize that the kind of work that I'm doing in the game is pretty much as monotonous as like anything else, like as inputting numbers into a spreadsheet or something like that. Like I was doing labor. I was just doing work for the sake of doing work, but it didn't feel like it. I was picking fruit, and I was farming and in this game. And it's kind of like the game like Farmville or those like Facebook games where you have to keep your farm alive or something like that. There's an incentive, but the incentive is purely just imaginary. Mm-hmm. Right. And so it just got me thinking about like the kind of work that we do in video games and how it doesn't feel like work. Right. And it goes back to something like the kind of Google work as you play or play as you work mentality, where they like trick their employees into doing more work by suggesting that they're playing, right? Or suggesting that they're having fun as they work. It's kind of similar, but here it's a little bit different because you're just passing the time, really. I mean, at least during quarantine, I was just kind of passing the time. But it's interesting to think about. Just like I would spend maybe around 30 to 40 minutes just harvesting fruit because I had so many trees on my island. It takes me that long to just harvest all of the fruit from all my trees whenever I log in.
What was your fruit that your island came with?
Mine came with cherries. So
I came with peaches. I'm really happy about it, and they're real cute. Because every island you get when you first start the game, all of the rivers and forms are randomly generated for the most part. You get your pick of 4 options, and then the location of the town hall is also generated on that map. And then you also get a fruit, your island's native fruit. So here I'm kind of starting an orchard. We have cherries, you could get apples. These are going to be pear trees. They're just baby pear trees right now. And oranges as well. I think the cherries and the peaches are the cutest fruits. But I remember when I was a kid, I'd always get the apples or the pears on my islands on the DS versions of this game.
You can also, yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sam.
You also get coconuts, but they only grow at the beach.
Oh, See, there's a few things that we could hit on there. I mean, there's like microclimate, which is also really there's an interesting lessons on microclimate there. But and Chad is talking about the gamification of work, and I think that's absolutely what Galo's piece was that he wrote recently was so captivating was that it was about software, and that our software is designed for purely production, or supposedly designed purely for work, even artistic software, rather than artistic software having more aspects of play in them. And it got me thinking about different softwares. And I know maybe back in the day too, would just be a little more fun to use. It felt like I grew up on a Mac, like my parents are graphic designers. So the software was very playful at the time, like the smiley faces and, different, like a lot of hidden ways, like you could just entertain yourself on your computer with software that it came with. But maybe the work of maybe it's not the gamification of work, but like the workification of software or workification of games, or operating systems, which has changed. I don't know where I'm going with that one, but something really great about what your realization is like, why don't we design software to have, especially like 3D design software, right? You'd think.
Well, so my position on that is basically that all of this is built with the same exact technology, right? All of this is running basically something like C++, right? It's just everything's built with programming languages, right? And so the question that I have is, why does one have to be really boring and the other can be really exciting? Like in The Sims, right? So when you're playing The Sims, you're building a house. You're building information modeling. That's what you're doing. You're working with BIM inside The Sims, right? Your house has information and it's got wall thicknesses and types. All of that information, all the same exact information that goes into a Revit model is potentially in your building and in your Sims. Even in Animal Crossing, to a certain degree, your building has information built into it, right? And it's just like really striking to see why one has to be so different from the other. Why is working in Revit so excruciating when building a house in The Sims is so much fun and so delightful, right? And I think your point about workification is super, super important, because there's no rule. Like literally, there's maybe no rule. There's no law. Let's say there's no law that says that productivity software has to be like sterile and dry and boring, right? That's nobody decided that as a law, right? But it's a social agreement that came about that mostly I think from just a desire to remain kind of neutral and to dominate the field. So like Microsoft, even Apple to a certain degree, Autodesk, Adobe for sure, they're trying to appeal to the widest audience, right? They're trying to make their software the de facto what's it called, like the industry standard, right? They're looking for industry standardization, right? And in order to be industry standard, you have to appeal to that kind of wide audience, and so you have to make your software essentially this sort of sterile, sort of neutral, geared towards like professional environments and all of that. But the question or the provocation that I have is, why do we need industry standard software when all we can standardize is the data? We can standardize the data, and then the envelope that handles that data could be customized, and you can have indie apps, like indie BIM software. Can we have indie CAD software?
Yeah.
Rhino is kind of an indie software. I mean, it's not necessarily an industry standard, and I think it's still family owned. I think McNeil is still a kind of privately owned company. And so, can we learn from the indie developers, like indie game developers, and make indie productivity tools there's some really, really exciting ones that I've encountered recently when I've been doing this research. Like Loom. I don't know. It's Loom. I don't know if anybody's known or seen it. It's only for the iPad. I think it's only for the iPad Pro. Actually, it's brand new. I think it just came out a year ago. But Loom is an animation software that you have to basically like draw, and then you swipe to go into the next frame, and then you draw the next frame, and then you swipe. So you're actually kind of like DJing as you're animating, and they make the interface really, really interesting, and it's just super fun to play with and super fun to sketch. I've been sketching things out. I've been like making animated sketches on Loom because it's so delightful and super fun to work with. And it's so much better than just like Photoshop, where you just have tools, canvas, layers, right? Mm-hmm. This thing has like a little wheel that you can like kind of pivot and literally you can sort of like DJ your sketch. It's super fun.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I wonder, I mean, there's some good point in chat about, well, before I ask that, actually, what another point I'll bring up about Rhino, because I love, there is something to just love and cherish about Rhino as a software. I think like it's at this really incredible place in history where it's just specific enough, but it's still pretty fun. You can do fun things, and it has what I love, what people don't often talk about. One of my favorite Rhino commands is just web browser, and you can just pull up a web page, like any web page within Rhino. Rhino has a web browser, and it's not protected. I wouldn't recommend, like buying things in that web browser or going to, logging into anything, but it's certainly maybe a good place to play a YouTube tutorial or, do something else. So, cause it can dock. And so there's something about just docked browser that would enable those kinds of feedbacks. But a lot of software is becoming so interconnected, it's almost like a nightmare, because I knew I was going to have this dream. I had a dream that I was in Photoshop, and I kept thinking I was going to have a dream, and then I actually had the dream where I went into Photoshop and I went to grab a tool, and it was like $2.99. And I was just like here, these kinds of things are already built into, have been built into games, and of course softwares with upgrades, but more so than any, more so it seems, these tiny like microtransactional upgrades, like you can get Adobe stock or whatever is built in. But the point from chat that's good that we could bring up is open source, right? And so what for you, Galo, would maybe separate open source from the kind of project you're talking about? Like open source is good, but it's also good. It's just like dependent on what would it take for you? Mm-hmm. Because pure open source is not going to have, like, it's going to be harder to find a direction. Sorry, right? Like, from an operational standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, so open source has all of its pros and cons. I think, in my mind, the pros are always the kind of community that's fostered, right? So open source projects tend to have, at least the ones that I'm familiar with, tend to have a really strong community of very generous software developers. Mm-hmm. They're always sharing knowledge on like GitHub and sharing their code and working through problems together. On Twitter, they'll respond to user input really nicely. And so, for example, I've been following the development of the free CAD program. I think it's just called FreeCAD, and it's an open source CAD. It's kind of like Rhino, actually. It's pretty close to Rhino, relatively new. So it doesn't have all of the features and all the bells and whistles, but it's getting there, and people online seem to love it, but it's still pretty raw, right? So what's really interesting is that the user interface is still pretty raw. So if you're not really experimental, like if you're not willing to sort of go into a tool that is just half done, then it's going to be a little bit tricky. But the community is really, really inspiring, actually. And Blender BIM as well. Blender BIM is a kind of building information modeling plugin for Blender that's also starting to kind of blow up right now. And all of these developers, I think, probably have full-time jobs, and sometimes they're doing this on the side. And it'd be really, really nice if open source projects could get more exposure and funding. Usually, they have to apply for grants and stuff. Like I think Blender as a project is kind of been blowing up over the past couple of years, and they've gotten a lot of money. I think Facebook actually just donated a lot to Blender.
Really?
Yeah. And so now Blender is a free 3D software, and I've switched all my production to Blender because I just don't want to deal with the Autodesk anymore. I mean, there's some stuff that I just can't avoid paying for, like Adobe, but I can avoid paying for Autodesk because I have Blender as an alternative, and it's just as powerful as it meets the same needs that I had working in 3D Studio Max, for instance. Now I just don't even open 3D Studio Max, mostly because my license expired as well. But it's so if I think people need to be a little bit more adventurous. I mean, yeah, it's going to be like tough to pick up a new software. It's always tough to pick up a new software, but there's something kind of delightful in just experiencing a totally new world, like a new interface,
or
especially
like a new island.
Yeah, especially if there's like really, like really good people kind of behind it, and thinking about user interactions in a way that is compassionate. You know what I mean? Like, I think there was a comment in the chat, something about like how software is designed by engineers and gamers, primarily engineers. And I'm not going to diss engineers. I think engineers are awesome, right? But there is a certain kind of mentality of efficiency sometimes in engineering. And I think if you just sort of push on that a little bit and say, maybe not everything needs to be efficient, like where's the room for delight and compassion? Like even something like the 404 messages. I don't know if you guys ever encountered like some really quirky 404 website not found messages. Google used to have a really nice one. It's like the little dinosaur game.
Yeah.
Whenever you like couldn't access a website or something, you'd get an error, a 404 not found error, and you could get to play like a little dinosaur game.
Are there mini games in fun. Animal Crossing?
There's like challenges. There's like little adventures that you can go on.
There's rotating like NPCs like come onto your island. I think today I have the carpet salesman camel. But last night I had this seagull character that will. Yeah, here he is, the camel dude. He'll sell you carpet.
Carpet selling camel.
Last night I had a guy who was passed out on the beach, washed ashore, and if you wake him up, he'll have you go like on a little quest to find things in the sand. There's another one who's a ghost character, and if you bump into the ghost, she'll get so scared of you thinking that you're a ghost, and there'll be a little dialogue and then you have to go find like her missing like spirit parts.
That's great.
I think that's
yeah. Okay. But there's definitely a parallel there between like mini games and the kind of delight or definitely Easter eggs, but we don't have to go, I don't think, that far, but that to just talk about the like engineering as a discipline and its ability to, or its understanding of what delight is. And like, I do think that's like a simple way of advocating for architecture, right? Like, well, it's just like architecture is usually not a totally efficient way of building necessarily, but about a speculation about building and or using efficiency when it's about that requires it, right? But otherwise, the efficiency of the object, of an architectural object, is the efficiency of its ability to allow for cultural things to happen, as well as like heating, cooling, and lighting. But to keep it on Animal Crossing here, maybe one of the parallels we could also make in the game is a space. Like, one of the things I always like to think about that I bring into my thoughts on video games and architecture is not just the game space, right? But the physical space that you enjoy the game in, because often that's a space of leisure versus a space of work. Like, it's sometimes the literal movement between your office desk and your couch that initiates a game space, or like a screen switch. Good screen, bad screen. So, but a lot of games are going to the point where you can like play them anywhere. But for you, maybe Gallo and Sam, I'm interested in both of your answers of sort of like, what is the space of the Switch when you play? Is it your bed, and is it something more comfortable, or is it also the space? I mean, literally, where is it?
I'm a big fan of playing things handheld, like on my Switch, because I do like to. When I first got this game, I was at my parents' house still, and I had my bedroom at my parents' house was the attic, so I had a couch in my room, and so I would just lay on the couch all day and play Animal Crossing. But now that I'm in my apartment, I just kind of lay on my bed and play it, and it's a nice like break from sitting at my desk all day with online classes. Just like posture wise, to like lay down is a lot better for your posture than your desk, so I feel like that makes it a lot more relaxing.
I'm the opposite, actually. I like playing the Switch on the big screen. That's how I usually do it. I have this standing play date with one of my friends from undergrad. He lives in Chicago. We play Super Smash Brothers every Saturday night. It started during quarantine, and it just keep going. We're just doing it. And it's a lot of fun, but I have to play it on the big screen. And it was actually really frustrating for me when I was playing Let's Go Pikachu. I don't know if you guys have played the Pokemon game. It's like a remake of the originals.
I'm a huge fan.
Yeah. And that one you have to play handheld. You can't dock. You can't play Let's Go Pikachu. The Switch is docked, and that was really frustrating to me because I didn't want to sit on the couch, like looking at the screen like this. I already do that with my phone. Right. I wanted to sit on the couch and just like look at my big. Well, it's not really big. It's like 48 inches or something like that. But yeah, the TV.
I played Let's Go docked. Maybe they changed it or updated it. Because I had the handheld. Yeah, I would dock mine, and then I had my handheld thing, and I could throw Pokeballs with it, like this.
I'm pretty sure that it wouldn't let me. I don't know.
Maybe it knew, but I like that game for its like the remaster quality, like experiencing a high def version of something you played and remember as pixelated was just wild, like absolutely wild. Like waking up in like a Wizard of Oz kind of effect, right? Where you're like suddenly seeing in color. Really cool.
It's different from let's say the Disney remakes, right? So like I don't know. I've been talking about the phenomenon of like the two Lion Kings for a while, and how like no one seems to like the new Lion King. Everyone really likes the old Lion King because nostalgia, but also because of it's saturated and it's abstract, right? It's cartooned, right? And it's exciting, really compelling. But then the new Lion King is almost too realistic and high fidelity, and it doesn't make any sense to listen to like these realistic lions try to talk, right? But that's a different kind of remake, right? Because the new Pokemon is not necessarily like more realistic, right? It's just different,
right. It's cartoon. I mean, it's actually a lot like this game. Though one thing we definitely could talk about that we haven't quite mentioned, that anyone watching who's not played these games, anyone watching for, purely about architecture or about software is probably curious that we haven't mentioned, is this insane planetary curvature that we get to experience. I don't really know what to say about that, except like what was your thoughts? Maybe does it make the world seem small? Like, what do you guys know anything about the game mechanics that it's just to be able to see pretty far behind you?
It's I think it's to make it seem it's to create the illusion of a horizon at like a smaller scale, I think. But it's actually a cylinder, right? So you can't it doesn't work sideways. It only works in the frontal axis, right? So it's basically a cylindrical planet that you're inhabiting.
Yeah, Sam, keep playing around with that, like move around and
go up and down, and the horizon up and down the beach, for instance, is really, really trippy. But it became for me, as growing up playing like Pokemon or like Zelda, right, which are basically like a kind of oblique projection, right? And this is not an oblique projection; it's in 3D, but it's sort of draws from that tradition, right? Because it's a side scroller, right? So you scroll from side to side, but it's a cylinder, so it only rotates in this direction, and so you're getting like things are emerging as you rotate around that cylinder. So it'd be interesting to see an architectural project represented in this sense.
Oh yeah, yes it would. And actually, somebody in the chat already mentioned it's like everyone cheating the perspective on their half-finished Rhino models to get those nice renders. Yeah, perfect. I wonder if actually you don't move, but you're on. Maybe the metaphor is that you're on a hamster wheel, kind of forever churning, like or a log on water, right? Basically, is how it's working. But
the inverse of that would be like the images of those space stations from the 1970s. I don't know if you've seen those, where it's like the interior is a cylinder, and it's like a space station that just curves in on itself. So that's you're inhabiting the interior of a cylinder in that sense, right? You see like farms and like cities that are curving up, kind of like Inception, right? So the city's sort of like folding up. Here, you're actually more on the surface, right? You're not on the interior. This is purely exterior. So you're rolling around that cylinder, and things are appearing as you roll around. It's really interesting, but everything's a grid. So if you notice, like if you can walk up to that lake, you'll notice that it's voxelated, right? So you can see the edges. Everything has a module. Like the ground in Animal Crossing has a module of like a little square unit. I think it's roughly the size of that like little patch of dirt. So yeah. So once you start digging, then the grid starts to reveal itself.
Yeah, for sure. And they're like maybe spread out just a little. Did you fill in the holes? Nice.
Yeah, you can do it two ways. You can do it that way, or you can do it properly. But
oh, nice. I like the grasses, that sort of triangulated thing. We do have one question for you from chat, Galo, which is what's your Super Smash Bros. Character of choice?
That's a good question. I sort of oscillate between Kirby and Isabelle from Animal Crossing. Yeah, she's actually really good. She's got a fishing rod, and the fishing rod is pretty dope tool in Super Smash, because you can actually like catch the your opponents in the fishing line.
Nice.
But Kirby is just like, super powerful.
Yeah.
So I got pretty good at Kirby, and I was always Kirby in the GameCube version of Super Smash as well. So I've only ever had GameCubes, a GameCube, a Wii, and a Switch. I've never really been too much of a gamer, but Nintendo is really my domain. And me and my brothers used to play Super Smash for the GameCube a lot. And Zelda: The Wind Waker. That one was awesome. Like the cell shaded, cartoony version of Zelda. That one was cool.
Totally. I think the architecture and like aesthetic situation of games like this are so phenomenal in what they teach us too about like representations of the world and aesthetic effect and kind of like desire, right? Because the desire here, like if we go back, is there a way that you could purchase that that light fixture or the switch, or do you have a light switch or some?
I don't have a light switch. I could buy it.
Some example, could you? I'll reimburse you with extra office funds. We had some guesses in the chat, by the way, and some people knew you'd say Kirby. Okay, so. Oh wait, no! You spent all your bells.
Oh, wait, I'll sell something.
Okay.
Doesn't offer a line of credit.
Oh no!
Don't go in debt for a light switch.
Oh no!
You can sell anything. So that's the cool part about Animal Crossing is that you can just like collect grass and weeds, and you can sell weeds for bells. You can sell. I sell seashells. I think seashells are usually fetch some good dough. Yeah,
fish do good as well. I think the highest paying thing you can get is a tarantula, and I know people will. You can go to like randomly generated islands to like steal their resources, and you can like if you get really lucky, you can go to Tarantula Island, which sounds terrifying, but it's great because you catch them all and they're worth like $1,000 each.
Yeah, there's also a stock market like in Animal Crossing. It's based on turnips. So turnips.
Sunday,
okay, I heard about this. Yeah,
I don't know if you've messed with it, Sam, but turnips got really big in Reddit. So people, as most stock market things do, but so your island has unique turnip prices, and turnip prices fluctuate. Right. So you can buy turnips at a certain price and then resell them at a higher price. Right. And then you make bells. But you can also go to another island where their turnip prices are different than yours. So you can basically like trade, like day trading turnips.
My God.
And so people on Reddit were basically posting the prices that they had on their island, and they would invite others to trade turnips on their island, and they would make a lot of money. My friend was making I think he made like 3 million bells or something on trades for turnips. and the interesting thing about the turnip trade in Animal Crossing is that they rot, right? So a turnip only lasts a week, I think. So you have to trade it, and sometimes you have to take the loss, right? Or else your turnip just rots, and then you've lost everything.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the light switch.
I have to jump to turn it on and off, and it does nothing. But
did you have a choice as to where that went on the wall?
Yeah, I just put it on a free spot on the wall.
Okay, but the height of it though.
Sam, can you go into the customizer and?
It won't let me. It says it's rude to redecorate when you have company.
Oh, it's not available. Okay, I can leave. That's actually a really cool interface. Maybe I'll leave the island and you can show the interior customizer.
Okay. Oh, you block off.
Yeah, that's just.
Okay, so it kind of plops. Oh, I see. It plops at whatever height.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks like all of the wall hangings hang at the same height.
Right. I mean that would make sense as a mechanic.
But once I leave this island, you can access the interior decorator, and it becomes a kind of like a voxel 3D editor, and you can actually like move stuff around more precisely and decorate things in 3D. It's pretty cool.
Wild. Oh, buy noodles.
Buy noodles.
All right, so we also have to make sure we hit the museum, because I'm interested in that space. That's on our list. So after we maybe do that after we check this out. Someone in chat, his bank account has like 15 million bells thanks to the turnip exchange. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so you can move stuff around with this editor.
Yeah, that's cool. And you can like orbit, right? So with the left joystick, you can move around in 3D like that. That interface is super, super cool. Like imagine if Rhino let you do something like that. Like
get a joystick for Rhino.
Yeah, get a joystick. I mean, you can. There's a mouse called the 3D Connection.
Yeah.
And somebody in my old office had one of those, and it's a really cool joystick. And at that point, you're basically like in like a little docking station to to model in 3D.
I had one of those for some time because I'd get like at the end of 3 days of like really intense 3D modeling, like any good like grad thesis student, like I was insane in 3D modeling, and I'd spend like 20 hours, then 20 hours the next day, and then I would like get physically dizzy. And with the 3D mouse, like for some reason I didn't get like seasick after spending that much time in digital space, because I think you're a little more balanced connected to it. But that's wild, the editor.
Yeah, there's also for outside, you can, I couldn't do this earlier, but now I could do the construction tool. Oh, the airport gate's open. I gotta close that. But you can use this tool to do landscaping, which I think is really interesting. Just gotta close the airport gate real quick.
I would say it's more terraforming than landscaping.
Yeah.
You're literally moving giant chunks of land and really having a huge impact on the ground, on the voxelized ground.
And does that make does that impact your ability to grow? Like you farm, but do you put plants down?
Yeah, so you can grow flowers and then trees and then also like bushes. I don't have too many bushes, but and if you plant a tree too close to an edge or in a place where it doesn't get enough light, sometimes that tree will not grow. I think I have an example of that somewhere.
West Clean permits.
Yeah, you gotta get a permit, and then you gotta wear your hard hat, of course.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, but you go into this tool and you can do different things. Like you can plot the roads. You can buy different road patterns too. I just have a dirt path and a cobblestone pattern right now.
Ooh. I like how you kind of like paint it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but they do have properties. Like you can't dig onto the stone road, but you can dig onto the dirt road.
Oh, nice.
And like flowers won't grow on the dirt road, and then you can cover it up with grass.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think this whole thing about gestures and like haptic feedback is really, really well done in games and not so well done in any other software.
Mm.
Like imagine if Rhino had like sound effects.
Right.
Like you successfully Boolean something and it goes like
yeah, or like gives you like it vibrates,
Yeah.
When you do something wrong.
Fails and it like has like a mwah mwah.
I think that would be so cathartic to have some kind of a reaction, or I don't know.
Like sending a message with slang text.
in a bad spot, and this tree's been there, little sapling.
Oh, there's a sapling. I see. Interesting.
And this tool you can use to build up cliffs.
There is build a cliff.
Some lessons here too about. I think. I kind of want to. Well, there's a book. It's actually MIT Press. And forgive me for not remembering the author, but it's Thermal Delight in Architecture. And it's actually about a theory of architecture needing to embrace its instead of a thermal singularity, embrace its ability to have like damp spaces or spaces that are a slightly warmer than other spaces, like in a house that attract you during different seasons. It's a kind of a nice argument for not just air conditioning, every square foot. But there's something nice to pair that with like the microclimate of this, just thinking about the sapling and how, each and every square has some impact on the whole, and the kind of diversity of effects or diversity of experiences you can have on your island relate to the way that you cultivate it. I mean, nice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious if to hear like a landscape architecture view of Animal Crossing, because it's a lot of it. You're terraforming this whole place, and there are, I don't know if there are microclimates per se, but I saw it snowing on my island. It rains on the island too. And so, the game mechanics try to address some of these issues. But I just think it'd be interesting. Yeah.
You can build snowmen, and it really does change throughout the year. So like during different holidays, they'll have events. Like there was a New Year's event here in the town square. And I remember seeing on social media people saying like, because of COVID this year, everyone was going to be at Animal Crossing New Year's parties. And,
nice.
Just like doing it virtually. And he's dancing right now. And they'll have concerts out here and different events through the years. And like holidays celebrated. Sometimes they'll give holidays a different name in the game just to make them a little bit more not connected to any specific culture or religion.
Yeah,
so like I think Christmas was present day, and everyone got a present on that day if you got on and played.
Thanksgiving was like Turkey Day or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, like give them silly little names. And even like I saw someone comparing the grass, the shades of green in the grass changes throughout the year. So this right now is the spring grass. And I guess it gets the shade of green changes, and then in winter it is snowy. It's all snow, and then when the snow first melts, it's like a dingy, like grayish green, and I think it's that color when it rains as well. It was raining for me yesterday, but if you really hate the weather, you can always do the little cheat where you time travel and you change the time in your Switch. Like right now it's 9 a.m., but actually it's 9 p.m.
Nice. The author of the book is Liza Heschong. So thank you, chat. I wanted to make sure that's stated. But Thermal Delight. It was one of those books I kind of plowed over in my undergrad. It never really thought about, but it keeps coming up for me actually. Like especially I think in the United States, it's pertinent. But yeah, I am. But speaking of sound, like I imagine the sound is great, and actually I have to also imagine it because that's hard. That you can't port as easily into to screen record and then share on Zoom and stuff like that. So we couldn't quite get game sound. But let's check out the museum.
Oh, I was going to open the gate real quick, just if Galo wants to come back.
Sure.
I actually put mine away.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's no big deal.
Yeah, I don't have to do that. The museum is really interesting. Because the game is supposed to be kind of accessible to a lot of different people. I think the skeuomorph is really important, right? So the museum is like a classical building, right? Can you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
it's sort of like typology. I mean, it's like Aldo Rossi's whole thing about like this is a very strict typology that you know is embedded in cultural memory, right? And so you can't really break away from it without changing the entire like semiotic effect, right?
The doors, they do swing inwards, so.
So it's very inviting.
Yeah, and also because I noticed in a lot of your other streams, a lot of video game doors will swing outwards. And this one, they at least have that detail where they swing inwards.
Actually, just watch this video about the history of doors. Like, this is a whole can of worms. Like, doors in video games are like actually like one of the hardest things to actually code. Like, does your character open it? How does it open? Like, what does it show behind it? How that? There's a whole thing.
Oh,
but
have you seen or did you ever play Resident Evil?
I did not.
For the PlayStation? Oh man! So just speaking of doors, that was the scariest video game I've ever played. In Resident Evil 3, I think it was, for the PS1. Every time you go through a door, it's like a cutscene to like you are opening a door and it's just black and all you see is the door like creak open. Speaking of like doors in video games, that I'm still like traumatized from the cutscenes of just like opening a door, because there could be like, you know, monsters right behind it or zombies.
Right.
And so it's so suspenseful.
There's something that translate, like, doors or different scenes in a video game absolutely translate to thresholds in real life. I mean, there's just as one of the things that translates really well conceptually, like thresholds. This museum, obviously, the interior and the exterior are not even close. Nice. Wow, it's expansive. So there's like, this is a museum. Well, okay, so it's interesting.
This is just the aquarium wing. I really enjoy the aquarium wing.
Wow.
Makes me want to go to an actual aquarium.
It's comforting. Oh yeah, this is extremely comforting. Blues. You could watch
all of the items in the museum in the game are all things that you found. So these are all fish that I've caught. This is the shark tank of fish that I've caught. And you have the option of either, when you catch a new fish, you can either donate to the museum, sell it, or you can even like put it in a tank in your house. I'm a big fan of donating everything to the museum because I love just coming here and looking at all the sharks I've caught in this game.
It's crazy. It's really, and the light coming from behind you is really nice. The spotlights.
There's room for development down there, and then you can even come up.
I've never caught a shark.
Yeah, if you catch a shark, it'll have like a fin sticking out of the water, and then you might catch a fish with a fin, but sometimes it's a shark, and the longer it takes to tug on your fishing pole, the bigger the fish it'll be, or the harder the fish will be. I like fishing in this game.
Yeah, great. It's a nice wing. I mean, the color at work here is really strong. I mean, the way that it fills up, lights the room and takes up the whole screen and really alters the mood. I don't know. Oh, this is all aquarium.
Yes, this is all the aquarium still. Yeah, so down here was like some jellyfish and like undersea things. There's signs. I don't know. Can you read these? Yeah, it'll tell you what the fishes are and when I donated them.
Yeah, like all of this stuff is just data, right? So it's the same kind of thing as like building information modeling. Your fish has metadata, when it was caught, at what time, location, all of that stuff is all accessible in these games.
And you go through that.
It works like software.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it does. So this brings to mind. Let's hit this question from earlier, but just like as more games about spatial design in cities become more popular and more architectural technologies become interactive, you imagine these fields intersecting in more meaningful ways or even slipping past one another and becoming establishment tools in the other industry. I think that's a great question. I mean, we've kind of been chatting on that topic in, similarly, but I mean, how realistic is this? Do we see moves that are close? I mean, let me start, and I'll say that like on April Fool's Day in 2017 or 18, I made this joke like Rhino 6 will now have stories, right? And I mean, it was like people loved it, and it was also eerie and believable at the same time, and it was like it was just an April Fool's joke, but I think it was kind of on that note, like we're not that far till social technology and production technology. Like, what if Instagram was just baked into, God forbid, Rhino or AutoCAD, right?
Mm-hmm. This is the bug wing, so the insects I've found on the island.
Excellent. Will they all live in peace?
Yeah, I hope so. There are different zones here as well. So over here, there's a river, platforms.
If you were to come into the museum, would you only see Sam's museum?
I think so.
On Sam's Island? Yeah.
Yeah, I think the data is based on the island. So I would only be able to see whatever she's caught.
So it's like a Pokedex. Like it's like your same architectural layout, but everybody's museum gets populated with the artifacts of their. Mm-hmm. I'll kind of nudge at what I'm about to talk about next, but conquest.
I really love the butterfly room.
Pretty. I mean, it's really nice.
Yeah, it reminds me of a room that I saw when I was studying abroad in the Vatican Museum, where it was a circle, a room like that, and in between different areas. Here, there's actually a research room, and you can see like caterpillars being turned into butterflies. What makes me laugh though is there's a ramp here, so like yeah, ADA, but there's stairs to get to the ramp.
Oh, nice.
Same on the other side, so kind of counteractive.
Nice. I must have been naive, but I was expecting art.
Oh yes, there's an art wing too.
Is
there? There's an art wing, yeah.
Oh, good. Okay, good. But it's like a zoo.
Yeah, I think it's like a natural history museum.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But you can also make paintings. You can draw. You can draw in this game. Like you can paint your own flag.
Okay, great.
This is how you do you paint on your phone. I don't have too many. Peppa Pig, Sonic, an anti-tongue Nook one. You can also download some from the internet as well.
Okay.
So the art wing in the museum you have to unlock, and then you gain the way you gather art for this is this sketchy NPC comes in every 2 weeks randomly on a boat, and you have to barter with him to buy art, and he can sell you fakes. So you have to make sure you're buying the real thing. So I'm really bad at catching when he comes. So I just have the Venus de Milo sculpture, and then a lot of blank spots. I got this one recently.
Right.
And then,
wow.
It's a lot of blank spots for me right now, but you can see how this would be laid out. And the first one you ever get is this one over here. And I think I have one or two more as well.
Mm-hmm. So they're like, ruining the mood a little bit, but there's like a very eerie kind of colonialist tone to the museum, right? Like
for sure, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, to analyze it in that kind of way. I mean, I know it's a very wholesome content. I agree, but it is, you know, to move to a deserted island and then to kind of extract resources and then kind of put them on display as conquest. I mean, it's all there.
I mean, it's very much a kind of 19th century mentality. So, I mean, even the museum architecture, right? It takes a lot from those kinds of traditions. And yeah, I would say that it's important to just be aware of what kind of, let's say, systems are being perpetuated, right?
Yeah.
You know, this idea of exoticizing goods, right? You know, to sort of collecting all of these materials and then putting them on display, like the tradition of the Wonder Cabinet, I think was mentioned in the chat. And the Wonder Cabinet is basically it's basically that it's a exoticist othering processes where, you know, you sort of put these different cultures and non-Western cultures on display for your own accomplishments as a kind of accomplishment that, like, you've collected, you know, these African masks, or you've collected these you know, Asian relics or something like that. You know what I mean? So there is something kind of problematic in that sense.
Right. And
I mean, that's just part of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's just part of what, you know, the legacies of all of that of colonialism, right? So I think it's important to be aware of it. You can't just like erase it,
right? And I think it's like, obviously I hope no one out there is expecting or thinks I'm expecting them to like erase, you know, these legacies in video games. Quite the opposite, right? They're obvious tools to use to play, to construct narratives about things that are culturally accepted, or at least fundamental, or tropes, etc. Whoa, what is this?
This is the dinosaur part of the museum. Sorry, I just started running through it. But they have this kind of like this spot where you can stand, and it like talks about like evolution.
Oh,
and then
nice.
you can discover fossils when you dig in the game.
Wonderful.
Yeah, there's a lot of fossils in these in the ground. So you really wonder where this island might be.
Yeah, it feels like magical. You found these? You dug these up?
Yes. I love digging up stuff in this game. So you can see apparently that are uncompleted. You find them in different pieces. So there's usually a head piece, a middle piece, and a tail piece to these. It's like this one's missing a head piece. This one's missing a middle piece. These ones are, I think, is that the Stegosaurus? They just completed that one today. You can go to this one blue spot on the ground and it'll change the view so you can see the whole room.
Oh, cool. That's really interesting.
Right.
Yeah. It's like a... Huh.
You can see the air conditioning systems up there.
Very good. Those look like... are they legit? Let's examine the, do they make sense for the layout? I actually can't quite make it out, but yeah, that's funny. I do think being that particular about analyzing, video game architecture, as in like how they render buildings in video games, does tell us a lot about like what people will accept as believable, how far you can stretch the believability of architecture such in a game. It's just something we can read, but the point on the ground that alters the spatial perception. That's really interesting.
Yeah, I think the up here it does it as well, but it's not that interesting of a view. Let me see.
I think it also it's also like not just what we're willing to accept as believable, but the techniques for communicating believability and plausibility. maybe come from just like how people observe the built environment, right? So one technique that video game artists really love to make use of is making things dirty and scratchy and rusty, right? So a lot of video games will make like imperfections because that's the first thing that maybe they observe in the real world, is that things are never really pristine and perfect. And so like video game artists are really good about making like rusty textures for their like metal boxes and like scratched pieces of wood, right? And so there's something to be said about like how the sort of the public kind of perceives the built environment and these objects, and then what stands out as something that is plausible, right?
Yeah, or like, what you decide to model. It's actually the modeling based on that modeler's perception, not necessarily to trick or to be believable, but the idea of modeling from a kind of non-architectural trained eye, also, right?
But even architects sort of skip that sometimes. I mean, maybe it's just the kind of culture that we perpetuate in school, for instance, just like not putting emphasis on modeling the system. Like you in studio you would never model your HVAC system, right? In studio you would never really model like the piping and all that kind of stuff. But
my professor's having me model the HVAC system right now.
Well, there you go. Okay, so sometimes you do.
You're in the
IDS, the Integrated Design Studio.
Yeah.
So we're learning about HVAC systems and plumbing and all that stuff. I just had to model them for diagrams, so I could just draw it, but I'm probably going to model it.
But do you show it in your perspectives? I mean, that's the question, right? In a video game, you would. In a video game, you would make like rusty pipes, like that go across, and like outlets that have like paint chipped away from it. You know what I mean? And then that's what would communicate that this space is real. But in architecture, we sort of put that behind a glossy, piece of drywall, and you say, no, the systems will not really be shown. And in the renderings, especially in studio, like when you do a studio project, you're not going to show a rusty pipe in your rendering, right? Or at least, from my experience, I haven't really seen that. But so that's really, I think, a key difference in how representation kind of plays a role in these 3D spaces.
Yeah. Right. Awesome. Well, any last comments in chat? Now's the time. I think we've taken a nice full tour. Oh, make your way to Biden Island as we kind of finish up. I do think something while you go, I'll kind of say a few things that I think it's really. Part of the connectivity of the game space is really unique, or that Sam was telling me about, is that you can actually, there's public islands, and that there was a political campaign in the United States that built an island you can visit. I think that's notable and of interest. And you visit islands by going to sleep and dreaming, and it's like a dream space. But that all of these media interests, and like Fortnite does this a lot. A lot of games do this, but we'll keep it specific with Animal Crossing. But these kind of infiltrations of sponsorships, like concerts, right? Like what if, for a week, Nike sponsored the lasso tool, right? Like, and every time you lasso tooled, I don't know, you'd get like 5 points, and you get 1,000 points, and you get like a 10% off a pair of shoes or whatever. But
don't give them ideas.
Right. But like you could start to like, I like thinking about, I mean, it's why your research has been so provocative for me, Galo, is like thinking about the production of software and video game software, and like why there's this hard line between gaming software or this is a software, a game, but like a game and like things that are obviously also games, which we just treat with different rule sets. Maybe that was going too far, but like Biden Island. What does Biden Island have to contain as a series of follies? And I think this game obviously is really relatable to the architecture folly. How would you lay out a political campaign island or any other kind of themed island? So we'll kind of take a look at this and talk about it.
I've never been here. I've never actually explored this.
There's
part
like
of the
posters.
game. You got a voting booth.
Can't go inside though.
Oh, nice.
But then all of these like things down here are all like customized designs that they made.
Oh, wow. The curved bookshelf. Is that a bookshelf?
It follows the curvature of the ground.
Yeah. That's nice. A rough exterior.
I mean, that actually kind of reminds me of, remember when Tesla was building the battery factory and it was this giant building. And it was a building that was so big that they actually had to take into account, the engineers had to take into account the curvature of the earth because it was so long. So there was like a tiny little like curvature that they had to like engineer for the foundation.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Is the like background that we're seeing a lot of like just Americana?
Yeah, and I think that even the animals that live on this island are themed after, like I know there's an eagle one. I don't know where exactly they live, but
like you can really start to read like not like a cartooned version of a cartooned version.
That's Joe. That's Joe.
That's Joe. He says one thing to you.
Oh yeah. Let's talk to Joe.
No malarkey.
That's it.
I mean, it's so gimmicky though, but like it clearly it's pretty tech savvy, right? So the campaign really knew who to hire to get this going, right? I mean, it's something that some politicians probably just like wouldn't even think about, right?
For example,
I think it's over here. They made a fake White House. They had the museum and they put up paneling in front of it to kind of create the illusion of the White House. You can.
So you only have a choice of very certain building construction options. So yeah, those are actually like that's one tiny building in the middle, and then like a fence essentially in the a little bit to the foreground of it to create that kind of bar building of a White House.
And then I think there's also like a field of like America flowers, like an American flag.
I don't know what it takes to build like your own kind of public island like that. I think you probably have to work with the developers, right? I'd imagine.
Yeah, I've seen some that are not politically based too. Some just really, really detailed ones. Like I've seen a lot of ones that are themed like the Edo period in Japan or like a European city. So they're not always for profit, but this one is interesting because like someone was hired as part of the Biden campaign to play Animal Crossing. And you can't get around to a lot of areas in this island. I should have brought my swimsuit so I could have gone swimming around. And
I imagine, Sam, I mean, and this is a question too. I mean, did they hire somebody to play Animal Crossing to such an extreme degree to be able to like purchase these in game? Or, I mean, they paid a sort of special, they paid and worked with the developers to kind of design this and like implement it.
I'm not sure. Or maybe did they get like a team of people to all donate money and resources to build up all this stuff? And
actual labor, like it'd be interesting to look that up and see if you can pull something up. But there is this. So one more question in chat is about the cuteness. But actually, it's Joanna Grant's thesis of cuteness, but also that comes from Cien and Guy's zany, cute, and interesting. The aesthetic effect of cute. So, just for that sake, cute is an aesthetic effect that makes you want to take care of something, right? So it would make sense that this island is cute, but actually it would be cute even if it didn't look so squishy, like, because you want to. It's imploring you not just that it's like round and helpless, but it's the helpless that you need to then provide for or like do something for that makes something cute.
Yeah, I mean, again, that goes back to this the tradition, the kind of Japanese tradition of kawaii culture, right? So you have these let's say motifs of cuteness, sort of miniaturized versions of bigger things, bigger people with with big heads, like little bodies. There are techniques for producing cuteness as well, and Cyan Nai talks about it in the book as well that you're referencing, right? The techniques for producing cuteness, things have to be sort of round, right? Mm-hmm. Things have to be smooth. Mm-hmm. The proportions have to be just right in order for something to be understood as cute. And so there is, just a lot of kind of aesthetic merit in this. I mean, this is a huge production, just like any other video game. So you could just like write a dissertation on Animal Crossing.
And I think it's really interesting how like kawaii, like the subculture in Japan, it really like started to take off like in the 90s. And like that's the first Animal Crossing game came out in like 2001 on GameCube. And so it was a part of that. And it was kind of during an era of like economic distress, and people used it as like in a way, like young adults, like a lot of young women in their 20s used it as a way to kind of escape the stress of like the economy and the world, the state of the world. And this coming out during COVID, I think, is really reflective of that, because people use this as an escape measure, like to kind of escape the troubles of their real life with this cute virtual little world, which I just think is super interesting.
And which island are you on now?
Okay, I just went to another island I visited in the past. This one, is like a 5-star island. It's European themed, I believe. There's also some that are like Japanese themed. This one is European themed. So there's lots of little stalls and market, and this one is really overproduced. And you can see they really went hard on collecting all of these art pieces. I wonder if some of them are fake art pieces, but you can just see how people can really, like these 5-star islands, people put a lot of effort into just to decorate, like down to the details of having everything paved and clock towers and different types of ground material. Some of these grounds you can purchase, and some of them you can design a custom tool to make your own ground and to code different areas on your island just by the ground conditions, which I think is super cool. I haven't gotten that far because it takes a lot of time to do those sorts of things. But and they even like put in like scattered leaves. I think you have to craft these yourself. It's not just a pre-made condition. And then they have kind of sculptures, and I think they really went all out on this museum, putting it up onto the hill. And even have a museum gift shop on this one, which I think is kind of funny.
Yes. Now, can you earn, like a lot of games, you can earn real world currency through them. Are there similar types? Like, can you pay people to farm for you or anything like that, or not quite in this one? Or could you sell?
I don't think so. I think the closest way to earn money through Animal Crossing would be to stream it on Twitch. And I've seen a lot of streams where people do like little hacks on how to like when you build up these levels with a terraforming tool. You can build on the third level, but you can't go on top of it. But you can glitch your way on top of it by like putting yourself in like a crevice and then putting a flower there and then glitching on top of it. It's I've seen people make a lot of streams where they make money because they just give you hacks or I've seen people design like really crazy fountains through the terraforming and water tools. But I think other than just like posting about it, there's not really going to make money through the game in itself.
I think you could also probably monetize your turnip prices too.
Yeah.
You could probably sell, like if you have really low turnip prices or really high turnip prices, you can invite people to sell their turnips at your area and potentially you can charge them or something. But
I see.
There's no like official way of monetizing these games. But I'd like to comment about art direction because it makes me wonder if people that make these intense islands make drawings. Do they sketch it out? I started to think that I needed to sketch out my island because I had, I was just ad hoc, like adding stuff and it wasn't looking very nice, And,
yeah, I've seen some people who design like in plan, like, can I do this here? Let's see. Oh, this is a map of the island we're currently on, where they'll go to like this map, and this one is pretty linear. But I've seen people who have their islands are like they design like shapes into them. Like I've seen some where they design, they change the entire infrastructure of all the rivers into being like a moon shape or a heart shape. I kind of did that with my heart lake on my island, but some of them are really, really crazy on just how much they change. This one is pretty linear. Mine is pretty chaotic in plan because this does take a lot of effort and a lot of strategies people implicate to when they lay out their island is like some people will do neighborhoods with their residential houses and make like a residential district or move the museum into like the mountains. I kind of had the houses scattered a little bit just because I've played this game since I was a kid and that's how it was, the previous versions before you could choose that for yourself. But you do have a lot of like room for the urban design of this game. And some people do make it so the actual map is really like graphic or aesthetically pleasing. And it's interesting to see, especially on these 5-star islands. This one is just...
That's awesome.
Could probably hop into another one.
But yeah, it must require some kind of drawing or planning or not so ad hoc in that instance. That's interesting. Yeah, and to that point though, like art direction, I think, is a place that architecture should study more closely or like consider itself more of a relative to than it does overall. Like art direction, the ability to take tiny details and imply a lot of either political or economic or effects by them, like a simple tool or something that a character wears or a material. Like these are all ways in which we signal or understand interconnected systems, and I think it's important for architecture. Study that as a making teeny tiny things, part to whole relationships, you could say. But yeah, super cool. Are you going home, Sam?
Oh, going home. I was gonna hop into another dream, but I can not do that if we're running out of time.
Well, I think we're well, I don't know how are you doing, Galo, but I think we're it's 9:50.
Okay, then never mind. I know there's a ton of them out there.
Just because I'm sure we could go visit a lot. This is a part Twitch stream, part like university event, and kind of this weird territory that we're exploring already. I mean, this space that we're in right now is even a strange territory in sort of academic space or gaming space. We're not really sure. Part of why I was interested in meeting like this, and so
yeah, I mean, I think it's super fun, and I would love to see more like lectures like this or something. I think well, I think what Zoom teaching and just the pandemic in general has revealed is just a need for more fun and delight, and that in every day, but also in our institutions as well. You know what I mean? Like, does a lecture series have to be super dry and dare I say functional? You know what I mean? Can we have something a little bit more chaotic like this? Can we meet in a virtual space that doesn't necessarily have to be like an analog of the real world? These are the questions that I've started to ask, being stuck inside and just like looking for more enjoyable experiences,
and more experiences that bring you together or closer. Speaking of, Sam, if you want to switch to your camera at this point, you can say hi. I mean, I would like to thank you, by the way, Sam, for being so great at sharing your island with us and playing and engaging with us. It's much appreciated. When we talked about doing this, hey.
Sorry, I kind of moved it to try to get my mic, because my mic is on my camera.
It's okay.
Better. But hello.
Hey, everyone saying thanks in the chat. Can we get a thanks, Sam, in the chat. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks again, everybody, and we will see you next time. Thanks, Twitch chat, and thanks, Galo and Sam. If you'd like to, you can head out whenever you're comfortable, and we will. All right. See you, everyone.
Awesome. Thanks. See ya.
All right.